Good evening and welcome to Front Row Racing. We're here tonight in Sakhir, Bahrain for round 3 of the World Championship Reserves. My name is Alex, although most of you will know me as Curly, and I'll be your broadcaster tonight. In the commentary box with me is none other than my World Championship teammate Kane Ayanda. Kane, how are you this evening?
Not too bad evening, everyone.
All right, fantastic stuff. So we're running a little late, so we'll power through things quickly and then get these drivers over to the track. Just a quick rundown of who we have driving tonight in the Ferrari. We have World Championship driver Schmidt, along with Farthba, who is also sitting in the back of the commentary box, but he's going to be quiet. He's going to be racing as a reserve driver tonight. In the Red Bull, we've got a reserve driver in W. Butler. In the Force India, we have a team combo of Danny Railton and RDB. In the Renault, we've got two of our World Championship drivers, Braken Clays and F1 Roadrunner. In the Toro Rosso, we've got another pair of World Championship drivers using this as a test session. We've got Barvmet and Caribbean Crush. In the Haas, we've got a reserve driver of Garfield. And in the McLaren, we've got the final reserve driver of Drew. Okay, so let's just get these guys across the grid straight away. Myself and Kane will hit spectate, and hopefully the drivers will take that as a message to ready up and head over to the track. Kane, Bahrain, what's your opinions on the
Yes,
track? Is this one that you like?
love it. To be honest, best track on the game besides Malaysia and Suzuka, I would say. But it's a good track that promotes good battling, so hopefully we can see a lot of battling tonight.
Yeah, that's definitely something we've seen in the past. Lots of wheel-to-wheel racing here in Bahrain. A particular example of that was in the 2014 race, Rosberg and Hamilton. I'm sure everybody remembers that one. Another, a favorite track of mine as well. Three very long straights, promoting good overtaking opportunities. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to stay with the driver in front here as long as you're within that DRS window. It's not quite as powerful as it was in F1 2016, but you're still able to keep up with those in front. Kane, when you're coming into this race and you're thinking of setups, what are you aiming for?
I'm aiming to be fast in Sector 2 rather than down the streets, to be honest. But that's just my personal preference. I know some people who like to go low wings and be an absolute beast on the streets, but
Is that more of a qualifying preference or a race preference that you would go for a higher wing setup here?
um, more qualifying, I'd say. I don't know why, but I feel like you can gain a lot more time in Sector 2 than what you can on the streets by running higher wings. So,
It's fair enough. It's an interesting point. There's definitely a lot of time to be gained in that middle sector, and to be honest, it's a pretty difficult section of track. In particular, there's a couple of corners here in Bahrain that are very, very difficult on the brakes, namely turns 9 and 10. That sort of double left-hander coming down onto the second DRS straight is one of the most difficult corners, I would say, in the whole calendar. So plenty of time for drivers to gain in the middle sector here, perhaps with a higher wing setup, although that might compromise you a little bit in the race compared to those drivers who are running lower wings. So I'm assuming that we have, we've got a dry qualifying. I'm going to assume we have a dry race. I don't think I've ever seen it rain here in Bahrain. Um,
I've heard of it raining once, but
once, oh
never
dear.
for me.
No, I've not seen it either. So I'm not even sure if it's coded in the game to be able to rain here, but who knows?
We've
Perhaps
got
we'll find
movement
out.
in the pit box here.
Yeah,
Force
perhaps we'll
India
find
out.
out later on. Force India's the first one out.
I think it's Danny Railton.
So yeah, I mean, we've got I want your opinion on this 12-minute qualifying session. F1 2016, we had the 18-minute qualifying, and you had enough time to get 3 laps in at pretty much every single track. But yet, the 12-minute session, is that something you enjoy? You know, maybe adds a little bit more pressure to the qualifying sessions, or did you prefer the longer format?
Yeah, obviously I preferred the longer format. It gave you more of a chance to correct your mistake if you did make one. But obviously I like how tense this new qualifying is. So I don't mind either way. you still got to get up the grid either way. So
yeah, particularly at a circuit like this where tire wear is so high, and keeping your tires in good condition is at such a premium that you only really get 2 chances in these qualifying sessions. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure on the drivers here, and particularly in the World Championship Reserves. For those of you who are new to front row racing, this is our sort of feeder series for the World Championship. It's the no assist side of front row racing, and yeah, I mean, just 2 qualifying laps in conditions like this with no assist to help you out, that's a lot of pressure for the drivers to be under. As I'm on board with Danny Railton, and I'll take you around a lap of the Bahrain International Circuit. So, onto the main straight, Danny having a little bit of a moment of oversteer. You want to try and get as good an exit off of there as possible. This is a very long straight. DRS wide open, looking for turn 1. Braking marker on the left-hand side, about 120 meters. Danny's done a good job of hitting that braking point and making his way up to the apex. Big moment of oversteer, just a little bit too much throttle, but he has rescued that fairly well. You then bring the car across the left-hand side for turn 4, 100 meters. He's done a good job there as well. A little bit wide, missing the apex slightly, but this is his first banker lap. Now into the middle sector, fast right and then left. Got to throw the car into here. Make sure that you don't run wide onto that curb, or that will absolutely spoil your lap. You might be in a wall. Difficult braking zone into that hairpin. Danny Railton's done a pretty good job on the traction now. Very difficult corners, 9 and 10. So easy to lock up here. But Danny Railton has avoided it. Good job to him there, and then getting a good exit. Crucial traction zone, and bring the car across the right hand side looking for 75 meters and throw it into this fast left. That's another difficult traction zone. It's easy to lose the car there. It's deceptively difficult. This is a pretty much blind braking point into this corner. You've really just got to throw it in towards the apex and hope. It hasn't quite worked out for Danny Railton right there. He's missed it as he's coming along the back straight, and this is really what allows cars to get close enough to overtake along the main straight. Danny going for quite early braking. There's been a little bit of a cautious lap as he runs towards the line, set the first time of the session. What's it going to be? It's a 1:31.73. As we watch Schmidt pull into the pits, Drew is about to cross the line as well. Where is he going to go? He goes P1, and he's just pipped Danny Railton there, less than a tenth between the two of them. We don't have another World Championship Reserves driver on a lap at the moment. So let's hop on board with Barthmet for now until we've got Farthba on a lap, and we'll have a look at him when he gets around. But yeah, I mean, Barthmet here is on the soft compound tire. Kane, would you consider qualifying on the softs perhaps? Do you think that's a good call?
I wouldn't say it's the worst call in the world. I mean, the tyres are going to be a lot faster towards the end of the first stint, so it could be a good call. We'll have to see how it works out.
Yeah, possibly looking towards maybe a one-stop strategy here if he does set his fastest time on these soft compound tyres. As we see Braken Clays, he's one of our championship drivers, going into first position with a 30.4. Who else have we got? I'm going to hop on board with Farthba. He's winding up for a lap here. And I mean, Kane, when you're about to start a lap, what are you thinking of? What are you focusing on to get yourself ready for a qualifying lap?
The tyre temperatures, making sure I've got enough fuel.
Tire temperatures.
Like out of fuel.
Come on, I want specifics here. What exactly are you looking for?
Specifics.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I don't know. Just a nice lap.
just for them to not be too hot or not too cold. All right, we are on board with Farthba. He's doing a little bit of weaving towards us.
Yeah.
Looking for turn 1. I'm not sure he wants us watching his lap, but that's all the more reason to watch it. Very cautious on the traction. Oh, big moment there through turns 3. And yeah, a little bit of weaving, just saying hello to the commentary team, I think. Looking for that 100-meter board. He's done a very good job finding that braking marker. However, just one gear down too many. I think you've got to stay in 4th through that corner. I mean, Kane, have you find it on this game that it's easy to lose the rear end of the car when you're downshifting too much? Because I've definitely found that.
Yeah, especially so close to the
Oh
apex.
dear, fourth butt. He's at a moment. He's in the
wall.
wall. And yeah, that's
And he's
qualifying
struggling
lap
to
over.
find reverse.
Oh, and another one. W. Butler. He's oh no, I think that's lag actually. It showed him in the gravel for me, but he's
No, I
jumped.
think he was on the gravel. He's got gravel
Yeah,
on his tires.
that's a little strange there, but it looks like he has had some sort of adventure at least. So we got I think we got Garfield readying himself up for a lap. He's gone up into P2, 30.7. No, he's coming back into the pits. And I think Drew is heading back into the pits as well. So, Kane, who are you on board with right now?
Yeah, I'm on board with Will Butler. He's just lagged back a little bit. He's on his run down to the start of sector 3 now, coming through the really hard left-hand extraction zone. Not sure of the corner number, but he's back on. No, that's lag.
Yeah, some serious connection issues for Will Butler here, and perhaps if he's watching the stream, maybe go and shout at whoever he's staying with to.
What? Shemet's being disqualified from the session for driving the wrong way.
That's a new one. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that before. Schmet, one of our championship drivers, appears to have gone a little bit confused and gone the wrong way around the track, and well, his session is over. He'll be starting in P11, I think. Will Butler really revving that engine out through turns 2 and 3, aggressive on the traction. He's looking to pick up some time.
We got RDB getting ready to do a lap as well. He's on the super soft tyres.
Alright, Kane, do you want to take us through a lap of Bahrain with RDB? Yeah,
Really,
yeah, you
no?
do. Yeah, you do. Go on then, mate. Go on.
Oh, you had to pick the slowest driver too, didn't you?
I'm sure that RDB will enjoy you criticizing his lap. So let's have at it, Kane. On you go.
Oh, that looked like a corner cut, but I'll close my eyes on that one. Now on the run down to turn 1, you want to be looking for around 125 meters, Kaylee. 120 meters. Second gear, get it stopped. Now let's see if we can do that. And he's on the brake slightly early, and just misses the apex too. Other than that, it's been a pretty messy couple of corners. Hopefully the rest of his laps will be cleaner. Turn 4, you want to be 100 meters, nice and late apex, and just feed the power on through the exit. This is probably my favourite part of the track. By far, this fast right and left, this is great, I guess. Yeah, it's been a pretty solid sector 2 so far. As he locks up and has a big moment.
Yeah, that's
his lock on.
That's a big lock up.
Back off.
I don't know. I think he's got to keep going. He doesn't have a time on the boards. I think when that happens on a qualifying lap and you don't have anything there, I think you've just got to power through. He's very close to the outside curb there. Very risky, as we know that outside curb can be extremely treacherous. Coming down into the third sector now. He's done a reasonable job of making it towards that apex. It's a very difficult one to hit, as we watch Caribbean Crush go quicker still. 100 meters to this final corner. He's just run a little bit deep, and RDB just, I think he's just struggling in terms of getting the car slowed down mid-corner. But he does go P4.
He's still, yeah, it's still a good lap. It looks like he's backed off. I think he's done.
Yeah, he's retired from the session. He's happy with that.
What would you have done there? Would you went for another lap or stay inside?
I think it depends on what sort of strategy you're trying to pull off, and how close on tire wear you are. If you're going for an aggressive strategy, then at that point it might just be best to let off and just sort of accept the grid position. But if you're going for a strategy where you know that you've got a little bit of tire life to spare, it might be worth pressing for that extra grid position. I'm on board with Drew right now. It's the final minute of qualifying. He's very late on the brakes into turn 4, but does a great job of getting that car slowed down. Beautiful apex from him there into this fast right and then left. Takes a lot of curve, and that runs him a little bit deep into the middle of the corner. He's got to compromise his second apex there to actually actually end up making it. Little squirmy on the traction now, down to 9 and 10. Very, very difficult corner. Big lockups from Drew there. He's run wide as well. It's all gone a little pear-shaped here at that corner. It's such a difficult section of track, and particularly for those who are new to running without assist, particularly ABS, that corner is probably the most difficult challenge on the calendar. So, you know, we've seen a lot of drivers making mistakes there as Drew gets pretty close to that apex on the inside. I think we're yet to see anybody hit it. But yeah, time is ended. Kane, who are you on board with?
I'm on board with Garfield. He's just behind Drew. I think he's just getting a little bit of days here now, which may have affected as he comes over the line. Is he going to improve? He does a 30.3. He improves by 4 tenths and puts him up into third. He is the highest reserve runner at the minute.
Yeah, it's a good time from Garfield, getting himself up there in amongst the championship drivers, and yeah, really, really solid lap from himself there. We're now stuck on Garfield. Unfortunately, the game will not allow us to move our camera position until the session has ended, so yeah, we'll just have to wait for that as we watch the cars bash into each other.
It's always a great sight, isn't it?
Yeah, something frustrating really is that, you know, this was the case on F1 2016 as well, where we weren't able to move the cameras around once we'd watched someone cross the line, and then F1 2017 comes out and we are able to watch them, we are able to move cameras after they've crossed the line, and further patch comes out, we can't do it anymore again. So I don't know what that's about. A little bit frustrating, I have to say, as a commentator, that we're not able to follow the final laps around. But I think what we're doing now is we're just waiting for a couple of the drivers in the pits to retire. That would be Roadrunner and Farthba in the pits, just waiting around. So once they've retired, we'll get the final qualifying standings up.
So what do you think about the Haas then, since we drive it in the World Championship? I'm sat here looking at it now thinking that is a beautiful car.
Best car in the grid, you know it.
Too bad it doesn't have the results to show it.
We won't go there. We won't go there. Plenty of time. Plenty of time. We got a lovely race here in Bahrain next week.
I can't wait for that.
That'll be next Wednesday.
Crush. Who's done a 29.4? To be honest, I'm looking at that thinking, surely he must be sandbagging.
Kane already starting to play the psychological advantage cards from the comms box. Every opportunity taken. So yeah, I mean, a couple of very solid times there. In particular, I think that the reserve drivers, Garfield looking pretty good, RDB also in the 1 minute 30s. Will Butler having a tough session. He had I think some major lag issues and a big off into the gravel at one point as well, so he'll be looking for something a little better in the race. Also Farthba, we did catch his spin on the cameras, so I'm sure I'll be getting an earful about that later, and oh, why didn't you switch off of me, you know, all of that. So yeah, that is the session at a close, and we will get the final qualifying results up in just a moment, and then we will head over to the race. Kane, do you want to give us a rundown of the grid for the Bahrain Grand Prix?
Okay, so our top three are all WC drivers. So, we got Breaking Clay's Caribbean F1 Roadrunner. Then the first of the reserves, we got Garfield with a 30.3. Quite close behind him, we got Bavmet, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Followed by RDB, Drew, Danny Railton 8th, Will Butler 5th, and Smet rounding off the grid.
Excellent stuff. All right, so a couple drivers down there not setting a time, and one thing that does allow them is to have a brand new set of tires for the race. So Farthba and Schmet, they might be at the back, but perhaps they have a little bit of a strategy advantage over the rest of the grid. We know that tire wear here can be quite high. It has been in the past, and I would say it's fairly high on this game as well, so that might be a big advantage for those two. I believe it is everybody else on these super soft tires.
So if you started at the back like Smet or Farthba outside the top 10, would you be putting on the supers, or would you be going for the softs?
Yeah, I would look for a soft. I might even look for a medium compound of tire. I think when you're in that situation where you're behind the train of cars, you've got to run a longer first stint. That would be what I would do. Would you follow that, or would you go for an aggressive start, Kane?
I'd probably follow that too. I mean, you're a lot faster at the end of the race, and it kind of keeps you out of a bit of trouble as well, being on the slower tyres. You're not on the pace as everyone else is, so you can kind of run your own first stint, if you know what I mean.
As we ready ourselves for round 3 of the World Championship Reserves here in Bahrain, 5 lights, and it's lights out and away we go. Great start for Breaking Clays off the line, and looks like a clean getaway for pretty much everyone apart from Will Butler's had a little moment off of the start. We've got a Force India diving down the inside at turn 1, and it looks like everybody is just about through there cleanly. We'll hop back on board with Garfield, who's in the Haas, and he's made a solid start. He's maintained his position. We've got one off at the background. That's Drew. He's gone round. And we've just seen here Garfield, he's run very wide at turn 4.
Garfield nearly lost it.
I was very close to losing it into the side of the Force India of Danny Railton, who I believe has had quite a strong start. So yeah, RDB up into 4th, although he's run wide out of the hairpin, and now he's coming under pressure from Bartman in the Toro Rosso into this heavy braking zone. It's very tricky, but he's done a good job of slowing the car down. Good traction from RDB, he's done well there. Bartman having a little bit of a moment. Maybe look a little bit further back here. Anybody's going to make a move. It's a very difficult spot to overtake into this corner. It's not a very long braking zone, as we've got Farthbridge just having a little bit of a slide in the Ferrari, and he's just had a big moment. Who's that into? That's into Garfield. Yeah.
Garfield's had an absolute shocker of a start.
Oh yeah, I know. He's gone from what was that, P3, P4? And he's now down to P7 with wing damage. He's missing an entire side of his front wing, all the end pieces there just off of that. So rough start there for Garfield. He's had a bit of a mare, and Farthbuzz had a moment out of the final corner. Is he going to carry on? He is. So no damage picked up there. As I'm going to hop on board with Schmidt and Garfield. That's not a great camera angle, as Garfield has lost even more of his front wing on the left rear tire of Schmidt, who was making a move into turn 1. And Schmidt takes that position. Garfield, you see the understeer there through turn 3. He's really struggling with that car. And he's got to come into pit, surely. I mean, you can't go around with that amount of damage. He's losing so much time. We've got Will Butler behind him now. He's almost alongside and past him. We'll see if he's going to make a move into the fast right-left. Garfield running wide. There's contact here, and Butler is round. He's just understeered off of that curb into the side pod of Garfield, and yeah, that's unfortunate for Will Butler, and I believe that he might have a little bit of damage there on his front left as well. So yeah, it's not gone quite right for him.
Other than that, the field seems to be pretty spread out. But RDB is the front reserve driver at the minute. He's sat in 4th, 7 tenths behind F1 Roadrunner, and he's gaining time on Roadrunner, which is surprising.
Yeah, RDB gaining 2 positions. Danny Railton gaining 3 off of the start. Now Farthbot past Garfield, so he's gained 3 positions overall, despite the a couple of moments that he's had there. And I'm just going to hop it onto the tyres, because we've got Farthbot on the medium compound of tyres. We've got Schmidt on the softs. It'll be interesting to see how those strategies play out throughout the race. So Farthbot going for that longer stint, and you've got to say, starting on the hardest compound of tyre and making up positions at the start, that's perfect. That's better than you could hope for, I think. Although Farthbot is coming under pressure from Bartman down into turn 1. He's very late on the brakes of those medium compound tires. He holds the outside line for turn 3. Good on the traction. They're going side by side down into turn 4. I think Bartman is just slightly ahead into the turn 4 braking zone. He's got the inside line. Can Farthbot pull off a cut back on him? He just doesn't have the traction on those medium tires, and Bartman takes that P7 from him. I'm not too well, I don't think Farthbot will be too concerned about that. He is on 2 steps harder compound of tires, and he's got to bide his time and wait for this race to come back to him.
We've got Danny Railton and RDB. Danny Railton just ran into the back of RDB at the double left-hander and pushed them off track a little bit. That's allowed them to get past.
Well, that's unfortunate. That's the 2 Force India teammates as well. RDB ghosting there for a moment. I'm not sure if he's paused or if this is some kind of technical issue for him, but that's going to give an opportunity for Schmidt on the soft compound tires to go past. We did see him quite a long way off of the track after the hairpin, so yeah, it definitely looked like some kind of incident that happened there. Although this is good to see. I believe that Danny Ritland has just let him back through, so that's something that's always nice to see.
I think he's just let him back through and then realised RDB's paused.
Yeah, something going on with RDB at the moment. We're not quite sure what, but yeah, I mean he was paused after that incident. So Danny Rilton, good sportsmanship. Something that you always want to see from drivers. Make a mistake, then yeah, if you can get in a position from it, just let it back through. It's a courteous thing to do. But he then realised that well, my teammate's actually paused, and I'm not going to wait around for that, which I think is fair enough. Danny Rilton off in pursuit of Schmidt.
In response to me saying that Caribbean is sandbagging, he replied, "Of course, I'm sandbagging," with a laughing face.
I don't believe him.
I think that's his raw pace. I think that's all he's got.
So as we see Barfett, he's going past the ghost car of RDB as well. So hopefully we can get some sort of clarification from RDB on what's happened there. Unfortunately, we don't have a clarification yet from him. I'm assuming it's some sort of technical issue at this point. So yeah, our leading reserve runner right now is Danny Railton up in P5. He's currently sat 1.3 seconds behind Schmidt, and we're on lap 4.
Pretty comfortable lead.
Yeah, we're on lap 4 on these super softs. Kane, when do you think we might start seeing these first pit stops? I mean, if these guys are thinking about a 2-stop strategy, when do you think they might start coming in?
For the 2-stop, maybe around 6. I think for the 1-stop, you want to be going to about 9.
Yeah, I mean, have you attempted a 1-stop here? Found it easy, hard? What's the thoughts?
It's pretty hard. You've got to look after your tyres quite a bit, so I don't think we'll see any reserve drivers doing it tonight. But if we do, that will be a surprise.
Yeah, I think perhaps if we're looking for one man to maybe attempt it, it might be Farthba. Mediums, he might go softs towards the end and maybe try and make that work. So he's probably in the best position of anyone to make that happen. I can also confirm that we've had a couple of drivers in the pits, Garfield and Drew down in P10 and 11. And we've also got a late join of SBL Mali Kekach. Unfortunately, he is too late to take part in the race. Just by 36 minutes, so sorry Mali Kekach there. But yeah, Garfield and Drew, they've got a lot of ground to make up. I mean, he's, Garfield there in P10, he's 18 seconds behind Will Butler in P9, so that's a lot of ground that he's got to find.
So the Garfield strap on another set of super softs then?
Yep, does appear to be the case. He's going aggressive on it. He's not going to wait around and play a long game. He wants to try and pull back that gap pretty much instantly. I'm watching just a little bit of the action between Caribbean Crush and Breaking Clays at the moment while we don't have too much going on with the reserve drivers. And yeah, I mean, these guys, same compound of tire, they were very close in qualifying, and yeah, I mean, just it's great to see people, very, very close on pace. I believe they were close in China as well, so perhaps we'll see a little bit more of this next week as Breaking Clays is looking down the inside on Caribbean Crush, but Caribbean Crush is later on the brakes, able to carry a little bit more speed around that outside line through the corner and maintains his position. As we have, I think, our first scheduled pit stop. And this is Will Butler from P9. He's in the pits, and he is putting on a set of the soft compound tires. Or is it Supers? It was soft on my screen for a moment there, but it does appear to have swapped back to Supers. It does also say that on the race director, so just a slight graphical glitch there. I believe we had this in a couple of other races as well, where the spectator who is not the host may have some sort of graphical problem with the tires. So it does appear to be a set of super soft tires for Will Butler.
Just an update on the battle between Caribbean and Breaking Clays. Caribbean's opened the gap to 6.5 temps now, so we may be pulling it in and showing us what he's really got.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a long straight though. Caribbean running a little bit wide through the final corner there. I don't think Breaking Clays will be quite close enough to make a move on this lap. He does have the DRS available to him. He's closing quite rapidly. It looks like Breaking Clays is running some pretty low wings here. He's not quite close enough to make a move into turn 1. He's almost into the back of Caribbean Crush right there. So, oh, big moment. He almost loses the car. Some good car control from Breaking Clays to make sure that one didn't end up in the wall. And yeah, that unfortunately for him ended any sort of hopes he had of having a run onto Caribbean into turn number 4.
So update on Danny Railman. Barvmet has closed in by a second, or 1.2 seconds over the past couple of laps, so maybe there could be a little battle going on there a bit later on in the race.
Yeah, it looks like Danny Railton is just about keeping in touch with Schmidt in front of him. That gap to Barvmet is slowly coming down. Those two are on the same compound of tyres, Danny and Barvmet, that is. So yeah, I mean, this is turning into quite a strong showing from Danny Railton here, giving it up amongst those World Championship drivers. And we're on to lap 7 now. I think if we're seeing 2 stops, this might be the time where people go for the pits. Neither of the leading drivers make the move just yet. We'll have a look at Roadrunner. Does he box? No. Schmidt, he's unlikely to. He's on a set of soft compound tyres. They should go quite long. We'll have a look at some more of our reserve drivers. So we're still waiting on pit stops for Danny Railton, Farthba and RDB. Well, Farthba's on those medium tyres, and we do see Danny Railton into the pits. Where is he going to come out? I think he's going to come out most likely between Farthba and RDB at the moment. Let's see if RDB is back with us. No, so he's still ghosted as of right now. So I think we may have lost him for the remainder of the race. Danny Railton going onto a set of the soft compound tyres. I've always found these to be a really strong race tyre around this track. Kane, do you like the soft tyres?
I've not run them yet.
Not used them. Not used them. Ooh.
Nope.
Alright. Perhaps some insider information.
After this it is.
I'm sure some of the championship drivers got their notepads out. They'll be around that one time, but that's alright. We've got Barvmet in the pits. He's coming out on a set of softs, and he's come out right behind Garfield. And Garfield is already pitted, so I believe that was an undercut actually for Garfield there on Barvmet. He boxed quite a bit earlier for, well, fixing that damage, but he has got himself back up in front. We've also got RDB's ghost car in the pits, so yeah, that'll be well, sort of pre-planned pit stop that ghost car will follow. And if RDB is able to get back in, then he'll be able to carry on from there, I think. Garfield on these super soft tyres, I believe he put them on lap 1 or 2. It was very early on in the race, and you know, they've gone 7 or 8 laps now. They'll be coming towards the end of their life, and we can see that Barvmet is really reeling him in. He's got that gap down to 0.7 of a second. Got a couple of the championship drivers in the pits as well. Caribbean, let's see, he's still yet to stop, but we've had Breaking Clays who's gone for an undercut. Oh dear, just sorry, cut to that, and we've had an incident between Barvmet and Garfield coming off, and that is at the exit of the penultimate corner into that gravel trap there. Kane, did you see what happened there?
Yeah, it looked like Barvmet went for the move on the inside, maybe outbraked himself a little bit, and he just tapped Garfield right off the track.
Well, that's unfortunate to see, but it looks like both drivers have avoided damage, so that's the main thing. It's always crucial to try and avoid that. I mean, if you find the damage on this game to be very harsh, I think it's much, much harsher than it was in F1 2016.
Yeah, by a long way. But then again, on F1 2016, we were running higher wings, so maybe that has something to do with it.
Could be possibly. It does seem that, you know, when you do brakes, you know, part of your wing, even a small part, you just lose so much time. I mean, you're losing seconds a lap from you know, even just yellow or orange wing damage. So yeah, I do feel like they've ramped it up a little bit, as we see. I think it was a 3-second time penalty for Danny Railton.
I believe so. Let me double check. Yeah, 3-second time penalty for multiple ones, so I am going to go out on a limb and say that's for corner cutting.
Yeah. We've just seen Caribbean Crush come out of the pits on a set of medium compound tires, so he went 9 laps into the race on his super soft. He's gone to the mediums. I'm assuming that this is an attempted one-stop strategy from Caribbean Crush here, but Braken Clays has gotten the undercut done, so Braken Clays does get the track position over him. It's up to him whether he can pull a gap now, as I'm watching Schmidt behind Farth, but I think that has Schmidt just come out of the pits? He has, onto another set of the soft compound tires. Farth but yet to box. Schmidt's looking a little impatient here. He's looking for a way past his Ferrari teammate, and he's taking it quite cautiously for now. He's, I think he's perhaps waiting for the main straight line up and move on Farth, but perhaps see if he'll make a mistake. He's very, very late on the brakes, and actually he's gone a little bit deep into the corner, Schmidt. He's lost a little bit of ground to Farthba there, so it'll be interesting to see how well Farthba can defend against one of our World Championship drivers. And I mean, Kane, if you're in this situation, you're on perhaps a different strategy. Do you defend it hard, or maybe do you reckon it's better to just let them go and focus on your own race?
Well, especially since he's in your team, I think you just let him go. You're not in the same race at the end of the day. So that's my 2 cents, but in Danny Raitland's perspective, he wants this to go on for as long as possible, because he's gained quite a bit of time. But as I say that, Farthba lets Schmidt past.
Fair enough, we're watching side by side through the penultimate corner. Bartman and Garfield. Garfield trying to make a overtake on Bartman. He just lost that position, and he's unable to make the move stick. A little bit of contact there between these two. Garfield nailing that apex. He's very, very hard on the throttle. A little bit too much oversteer moment for Garfield there. We'll see if he's able to close anything along this straight, although I think that moment has cost him a huge amount of time to Bartman along this straight. He's down to 9/10 behind. He's losing time along the straight, actually. So another bit of a moment there for Garfield. He's clearly pushing really hard and just trying to get the absolute most out of this car. As now we can hop on board Danny Railton, who's coming up to the back of Farthba, and he's in hot pursuit of Schmidt, and he's got to find a way past Farthba here if he wants to have any hope of staying with Schmidt. But of course these two are not teammates, so Farthba letting his teammate through. I doubt he's going to do it for Danny Railton. Braken Clays and Caribbean Crush trading fastest laps into the mid-32s. Caribbean able to keep up with Braken Clays, despite Braken Clays being on that softer compounded tire. So the medium's working well for Caribbean, but is he going to be able to get 20 laps out of that set of tires? I don't know. That's a long way on one set of tires.
That is a lot to ask, especially around here.
Okay, do you find at this track, is it the rear tires or the front tires that you find more limiting in your tire wear?
The rear tires, especially with all the traction zones, I seem to be killing the rear tires quite a lot. But apparently,
big moments for both Farthba and Danny Railton here on the exit of turn 2. That was pretty much synchronized oversteer there. Good show from these two. Danny Railton maybe having a little look down the inside. Farthba runs very wide, and that's opened the door. Danny Railton is he's not gone quite as good at exit, but Danny Railton's just managed to hold that line. He's ahead, although they may go side by side into the hairpin. No, Farthba's just a little bit too far back. He's going to have a chance on. Almost loses it. I'm not sure if there was contact there or whether that was just oversteer, but it did look as if he had a good run up until that moment. Farthba losing the position to Danny Railton. So yeah, I mean, Danny Railton on much newer tires. It was always going to be hard to keep him behind, as we see Braken Clays going even faster on this lap.
That is a pretty nice race time. I believe it was a 32-3. What do you think about that, Caleb?
Yeah, it's looking
Looking
pretty strong
ahead to
for
next week race.
looking pretty strong for breaking clays right now. He's him and Caribbean are really pulling away from the rest of the field here. Farthba is within the DRS range of Danny Railton, and getting very close under braking. He's actually gained quite a lot through that final corner now. On the main straight, he has the DRS available, and it is open. He's going to see if he can gain time, but Danny Railton running some low wings, and Farthba just unable to make up much ground on that straight. I mean, this can be the sort of backlash of running a higher downforce setup. Okay, you'll be fast in that middle sector, but when it comes to those straights, you're going to be in trouble when you're trying to attack and defend. Farthba, big moment, another big moment. Yeah, I think one of the problems that Farthba's been having at that corner is that he's dropping down too many gears, I would say. I think you've got to be looking to stay in fourth, most likely, through that corner. If you're dropping down to second and third, the rear of the car is going to snap on you. It's just, yeah, it's very hard to control in that instance. So perhaps just a little note for Farthba as he's having some real off-track advantages here, and that's in the wall. He's just lost it on the curb. And that's going to be frustrating. That's a bit of a careless incident, I think, for Farthba. He's got to be fuming with that one. He's thrown it away. Just needed to rejoin the track, and now he's got significant wing damage. You can see the understeer on board there. So I wonder if this is now the moment where Farthba's looking. He's got old tyres, he's got a broken wing. Perhaps it's the time to come into the pits.
Would you be attempting to take a set of softs for 15 laps, or would you do 2 stops on the supers?
Oh man, I mean 15 laps on a set of softs, again, that's quite a long way. I don't think it's impossible, but it might be difficult. It depends how good you are on your tires. I mean, you were talking about this circuit being rear limited earlier on, and it's tough on those rear tires in the traction zones, and perhaps a little in the braking as well. So you've really got to heavily save your rear tires. I mean, Kane, if you're in a race, you need to save your rear tires. Let's say, how do you go about that? I mean, how could Farthba, he has gone to a set of super softs, so he will be 2-stopping, but let's say he had gone for a set of softs. What sort of driving strategies could he employ to make those rear tires last longer?
Lane mixing all traction zones. That is a definite. You can turn your front brake bias to around 58%. That'll take the load off the rear tire and the braking, so you'll lose a lot less tire wear doing that. Anything else? Smooth around the brakes, maybe?
Yeah, some good points. Maybe, I mean, you could maybe even do a little bit of lift and coast as well, and just to go very easy in those braking zones. But interesting point on the brake balance there. You got to be careful with that, I think, particularly around this track, because if you move that brake balance too far forward, what will happen is at turn 9 and 10, you're just going to start locking up that front left tire constantly. And if you do that, then you're going to be front limited rather than rear limited, and you've got a whole other problem.
The field's looking pretty spread out right now. We've got Drew's 1.4 seconds behind 5, and other than Caribbean and Breaking Plays, that is the closest on-track battle we have right now. But it's not even a battle. Drew's on really warm motions too, so I think he'll be looking at doing stuff pretty soon. Maybe for a set of softs.
Yeah, it could be. I think we're getting into that window where the soft compound tires will
start to make it to the end and do so without a huge amount of tire saving. Drew just 1.5 seconds behind Farthba, and Farthba on those super soft tires will be looking to pull away, and we can see this trio of reserve drivers now, Farthba, Drew and Garfield, maybe just starting to come together a little bit. Drew is actually catching Farthba slightly despite the tire disparity, so he's found some really strong pace around Bahrain this week. So yeah, I mean, Farthba, he knows he's got another stop to make. Drew has another stop to make. I'm assuming that Garfield has already made 2 stops. Kane, would you be able to check when Garfield's last pit stop was for me?
Yes, I will get into that right now. It was lap 12. So he can take those mediums right to the end, which will put him in a good position. He could maybe get onto the podium, like he said to us before the race.
Yeah, this is interesting. So Garfield putting those mediums on lap 12, and that's a 17 lap stint. That is within the tire life of the medium tires. I mean, I do think that is a possible strategy for Garfield. So that's interesting. I mean, he's got Drew in front of him, who needs to pit, Farthba in front of him, who needs to pit, but these guys are they're going to be on faster tires towards the end of the race. So it really comes down to, can Drew and Farthba run down that pit stops gap that they need to? Drew is over on the right hand side of the track, and now coming back across. I'm not sure if that was going defensive. Garfield so much later on the brakes. A little bit of a moment of oversteer, but he's got a decent exit compared to Drew. Drew going extremely defensive all the way over to the right hand side of the track. He doesn't want to give Garfield a hope of taking that inside line. But Garfield is later on the brakes. He's not quite close enough to get the move done into turn 1. Now it's all about getting good traction through 2 and 3, and he's very, very close to Garfield. Very close to Drew. He actually had to lift off right there to make sure he didn't go steaming into the back of him. He has a little look, moves to the outside. Now looking for better traction on the inside, but no, not quite. He's going up the inside. Is he going to put his nose in there? Drew has actually run wide off the track. I don't think there was contact, but there was contact there. Coming back and pushing Garfield off. Garfield's going to go down the inside. There's big contact between the two of them, and I believe that Drew has lost out in that position. Was there damage there? Any front wing?
I think he's lost the corner of his wing.
Oh, is this Drew or Garfield?
Yeah, Drew has lost an end plate.
Oh yeah, we can see that on the front right of his wing there, just missing those end plates. So perhaps now is the time for Drew to come into that pit stop and get a new wing and get some new tires, and then see if he can go after Garfield in the latter stages of this race, as Garfield's wing looks all right. So yeah, some really tough racing between these drivers here.
I think Danny Railton's sat pretty comfortable in first place for the reserves now. Hopefully I've not given the commentator's curse, but he has got a 5-second gap to Barnett behind, who has then got a 30-second gap to Farthba, so he really does need to make a big mistake to be losing out on his podium tonight, or essentially the race win.
Yeah, one thing to note is that Danny Railton does need to make another pit stop, so that will pull him closer back towards Garfield and Farthba. But yeah, I mean, he's had a very solid race so far, and he's sitting in a fairly big gap of clear air. I'm just going to hop back on board with a couple of our championship drivers. We don't normally focus on these guys too much, but they are the closest battle on track, and I think it's an interesting point in terms of the strategy that Caribbean was able to keep with braking clays through most of that stint, and now with the tire wear, these medium tires are starting to get a little bit faster than those soft tires, and Caribbean is really starting to close up to braking clays. So I mean, now braking clays is going to make the decision: does he want to battle, or is he just going to dive into the pits right now?
Well, if he dives into the pits right now, he's got 11 laps of pure pace to unleash. So I don't know. I think I'd be tempted to go for the softs and just box now, get it over and done with, and start.
Well, speaking of diving into the pits, Danny Railton has just been in the pits, and he's on his way out on another set of medium compound tires. So he's taken 2 medium compound tires, a harder tire set, into this race. Where is he going to come out? He's going to come out pretty comfortably in P6 as Garfield picking up a 3-second time penalty right there. I'm going to hop back on board with Caribbean Crush and Braking Clays as they're coming down to turn 1, and there's a lapped car of Garfield here who does get out of the way very well. He just goes straight on. He's not interested in this in the slightest, as Caribbean all over the rear wing of Braking Clays right here. He's within a couple of tenths, but is he close enough to have a look into turn 4? No, doesn't even bother to think about it. Just taking that corner nice and easy. I think Caribbean's just biding his time at this point. He knows the Braking Clays is going to pit.
You're just concerning Danny Railton. Yeah, that is his first set of mediums. He ran supers and then softs, and then he's gone to the mediums.
Thank you very much, King. Keeping me on my toes. Good job there. Yeah.
So that was the first set of mediums then. So Danny Rilton had a pretty long stint on those soft compound tyres. So he's done quite well on that one, and those mediums will comfortably take him to the end. I don't think there's any question of that. A 5-second stop go for Barvmet for speeding in the pit lane. Now this is interesting because he is involved in a battle with Danny Railton and Farthba as well, and that 5-second stop go will not be served at the pit stop, so that will be served right at the very end of the race. That'll be a time penalty added on, so something to keep note of. Barvmet has a 5-second time penalty for those drivers. We have just seen Danny Railton. He's out in front of Barvmet, only just though. Brayton Clays in the pits.
Brayton Clays has made a pit.
What's he going to go for, Kane? What do you think it's going to be?
Supers, I hope. Yeah, that's what it is. So how much faster are these supers going to be than the mediums right now? Now that we're at the end of the race, low fuel.
Well, I think Brayton Clays is in a tough
position
position because he wasn't able to pull away from Caribbean Crush there, and realistically now his super softs have got to be 2.5 seconds a lap faster for him to pull down this gap.
So basically, it's not happening.
I would say it's unlikely, but we'll see what Brayton Clays is able to pull out. I mean, he showed some strong pace earlier in the race, so yeah, I mean he's looked pretty on it today. We'll see if he's able to pull that gap in. But also, there's the big question, of course, is Caribbean even going to make it to the end? I mean, 20 laps on a set of medium compound tires, that's a long way. Will he be in puncture territory? Who knows? I think it's possible that he might get a puncture towards the end. We have seen that in races from Caribbean before, so that's something to keep an eye on.
His tyres are looking pretty worse for wear right now, so that could actually be a serious possibility around lap 28-29, depending on what his tyre wear is now.
Alright, so I want you to put yourself in Danny Railton's shoes. He's got Barvmet 1 second behind. Barvmet looking to just close that gap a little bit. Danny Railton, perhaps knowing that Barvmet has a 5-second penalty, what would you do in his position? Would you just let him go and try and stay behind? You know, if he battles too much, he might risk falling backwards towards Farthba and Garfield. But at the same time, if you let him go, there's a risk he might actually be able to pull out a gap. What would you go for, Kane?
Well, it is the last stint. Now, this last stint is more about ego and pride rather than anything for me.
Oh, hold on. We've had Farthba in the wall somewhere. That's at the start of the second sector. He's missing a lot of his wing. I'm assuming he's been in the wall somewhere. There wasn't anybody else near him on track. So Farthba having a little bit of an adventure there. And this is going to give an opportunity for the likes of Will Butler and Drew to catch up a little bit. Farthba was sitting in a podium position at that point. So yeah, that's unfortunate for him. He's got to come in the pits and get that fixed, perhaps put on a new set of super soft tyres.
Could this promote Will Butler to the podium if he can take these softs all the way to the end?
If he can take these softs all the way to the end, do you know when he?
Pretty warm.
Do you know when he put them on?
I'm going to double check that now.
As he double checks, we're on board with Barvmet, and he's looking around the outside of Danny Railton into turn 1. Danny Railton very late on the brakes, covers that inside line. Good job there. Now traction through 2 and 3. Smooth traction from Barvmet. That's calm and collected from him. Is he going to have a look down into turn 4? He has the toe. He goes to the outside. Is he later on the brakes? No, but he's got a better angle coming into the corner. Danny Railton defending that so hard that he's gone a little bit wide. And now they're side by side coming into the fast right and left. But Danny Railton holding on to the position. He's fighting it hard against the World Championship driver. And I've got to say, this has been a really good drive from Danny Railton today. I've been very impressed with his race so far. So I'd like to see this continue from him.
Yeah, he's kept his head down, and he's going to be shouting up to people in the World Championship for maybe a possible reserve driver Bahrain next week.
Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, if you're one of those World Championship drivers and you need a reserve driver, I think Danny Railton is showing that he's got what it takes. So he's keeping up with these championship drivers as Barvmet is going around the inside. What a beautiful move. He just flew past him there. Just so much more grip and speed through that long right-hander. I wasn't even expecting an overtake there. It's not a regular overtaking place. But Danny Railton, he's now got the tow. He'll have the DRS down the main straight. It's all about getting a good exit off of here. He's had a little bit of a moment, but it's not too bad. And now, tow, DRS, is he going to have enough straight line speed? We saw he had some pretty good straight line speed earlier in the race, and he is closing up Bartman. Bartman goes defensive. Danny Railton's very late on the brakes, and there's contact. He's gone right into the back of the Toro Rosso, and he's horribly misjudged that. And now he's missing a huge amount of his front wing. I mean, he's also going to have a look at Bartman down the inside. Is he going to have a go? He is. Bartman goes very wide. Apologies for that, wrong camera there, but yeah, I mean, Danny Railton not able to get that place back. Now he's in a really difficult position. He's got significant wing damage, he's got old tires, and he's got Garfield 18 seconds behind him. That seems like a big gap, but we've got 6 laps left. Is he going to lose 3 seconds a lap from that wing damage? I think it's possible.
I think the best thing to do right now for Danny would be to box, take a set of supers. Fair enough, you're coming out behind Garfield, but Garfield's got a 25-second gap behind him, so either way you're going to be in clean air, and you've got a few laps then, 4 or 5 laps on the super soft tyres against the mediums to chop away.
Is that worth the risk? I mean, you've got a situation, that's the wrong button, we've got a situation where he would come out, I mean, with a front wing change, he's probably coming out 10 seconds behind Garfield. Can you make up 10 seconds in 6 laps? I don't know. I mean, that's possibly if you've got very good pace at the end of the race, but that's a big gap to make up. I mean,
and he's boxing by the looks of it.
Is he going for it? Let's see. Danny Railton does pull into the pit stop here, and
so yeah, I'll jump on board with Garfield. And Garfield, this has happened for at a perfect time for Danny, as Garfield has just had to let Braking Clays past. Jesus Christ, couldn't get me words out there. I apologise. Braking Clays has just lapped Garfield, which should slow Garfield down quite a bit, so hopefully maybe that could play into Danny Railton's hands.
Yeah, Braking Clays currently charging on the super softs after Caribbean Crush, but I think he's going to run out of time there. Danny Railton does go for a set of the super soft compound tires. He's out behind Garfield, and good job from Garfield there to get out of the way. It is important as a lap car that you make way for those on the lead lap. So currently our reserve podium is sitting as Garfield, Danny Railton and Drew right now, and the question really is who's going to take the win out of the reserve drivers. Can Danny Railton pull down a 10-second gap in what is 6 laps? It's a big ask, but
it's doable. Definitely doable.
Kane's got confidence in Danny Railton, and Danny Railton has shown some very strong pace today. New front wing, new tires. 10.5 seconds is the gap. Garfield, he's on those medium tires, and those medium tires do have some pretty good life. I mean, they don't really get slower throughout the stint. I think is the main thing that Garfield's got to be hoping for, that he can maintain the pace on those tires, and just hope that Danny Railton runs out of time.
Well, we're already half a lap in, and Danny Railton has chopped away 1.3 seconds. And it's going down 10th by 10th by 10th.
So what's it going to be? It's going to be 2 seconds a lap. That's what Danny Railton's got to do. He's got to be 2 seconds a lap faster than Garfield. He's got newer tires, he's got softer tires, but I mean that's a lot. And this is on to lap 25. This will be so what we've got. Let's see where Caribbean is on track right now. So yeah, I mean it's 5 laps remaining. I think these guys are a lap down on Caribbean Crush, but they will still have 5 laps remaining of the race, as they'll be on lap 24 right now rather than 25. The display here shows the lead driver's lap count rather than the driver that we're watching. Danny Railton takes another second out of Garfield in the first sector alone. He's really reeling him in.
He is a man on a mission right now. But do not let this cloud your vision on what's happening a bit further down. We got Will Butler gaining on 5-bit. Will Butler's on the super soft tyres on 5-bit, is on fresh softs. And as we've seen today, anything can happen from these drivers. So maybe Will Butler could overtake Farth. Maybe Butler could drop back further. Who knows? But one thing we do know is RBB is not back. He has disappeared.
Yeah, just looking, Will Butler has a little bit of front wing damage, I think. I'm not sure if this is recent or if this is something he's been carrying for a little while. You can see one of the end plates there missing, a couple little pieces actually. So, yeah, I mean, is he going to be able to catch? He seems to be dropping away from Farth, but now he was catching for a little bit. He had the gap down to 2 seconds, but it's now back up to 3.4 as
Danny Railton's took another 2 seconds.
He's doing what he needs to do. 2 seconds a lap. He's got to continue that, and you know, we know these super soft tires, they will start to degrade. He's got to keep this pace up if he wants any hope of catching Garfield. And I mean, at the moment, he's doing what he needs. We just saw Garfield in the shot there. Danny Railton will be able to see him at the end of the straights now. That'll spur him on.
So I'm just looking at the fuel that Danny Railton's got on board.
Oh, hold on. We're not going to do the fuels, just in case one of the drivers is listening to the broadcast. We don't want to give that information away. Something that we've just decided to do. The tires is okay, but in terms of the fuel,
to do this now.
No, this has been in place for the whole season. Simply so that
we can
drivers
blame you for not debriefing me properly.
You should have known, Kane. You should have known. So yeah, I mean, with the fuel amount, some of the drivers will be listening to the broadcast as they drive, or perhaps they have an engineer helping them out. And yeah, I mean, we don't want to give away exactly what fuel strategies everybody is on. I think that is left a little bit more to the drivers' imaginations, as Will Butler is out of this race and he's had an off, but I don't think he's not completely broken his car. He's still going. So yeah, I think that might just be a choice retirement for Will Butler. He's realized that he's not going to catch Farthba there, and I think he may have just called it a day. Danny Railton, 4 point flat, down into the threes now, away from Garfield. He's reeling him in.
He is. He's going to be all over him at the last lap.
So what was looking like quite a big gap between our two leading reserve drivers here is, well, it's really come down. Danny Railton on an absolute charge. You can see Farthba on your screen right there, just 3 seconds up the road. This gap, you can just see it coming down 0.2 at a time, and Danny Railton, you can tell, is you know, he's really got this track on lock. I think he's been extremely impressive today, apart from that one incident costing him a huge amount of time. But yeah, I mean, this gap is 3 seconds. Let's see if he can take some more out of these fast corners, which is where the super soft tires should be faster. The fast corners and the traction zones are really where you'll make up the time.
So whose position would you rather be in? I mean, I know it's a stupid question because I know all day whose position I'd rather be in. Would you rather be Garfield or would you rather be Danny?
Ooh, all right. I'm interested to hear who you're gonna say. Or do you want me to go first?
I'd much rather be Danny, to be honest.
You'd much rather be Danny Railton with the faster tires. You know what? I'm actually going to disagree. I think I'd rather be Garfield in this situation, and the reason I'd rather be Garfield is overtaking is quite hard. You have the track position. You don't have to defend for too
Garfield's
long.
Off the cuff.
Well, never mind. Well, he's bottled it.
You see, this is why I said this is supers, because you got more grip. It's just overall it's a lot less stressful than when you've got someone gaining on you.
Personally, I always prefer being out in front and defending,
yeah,
but Garfield there,
honest,
that's a
let's be honest,
critical error.
one is going to gain on you. If I put the super softs on and you're on the mediums, you're still going to pull away from me, Kevin. So you're never going to know what that feeling feels like.
I can think of a few drivers that may disagree with that statement right there. I'm sure that we'll see that on Wednesday. Garfield, though, he's not giving up. He's staying within 0.7 of Danny Railton. There's no way he's going to give up this win here, and this is for the win of the reserves event. Now the question is, will Danny Railton's tyres perhaps fall off in the last lap? Perhaps it's wishful thinking, but Garfield is not going to give that up. He runs very, very deep into the penultimate corner. He's gotten that all wrong, and that's costing time. He's now dropped out of the DRS zone. 1.4 seconds that Garfield is down.
Oh, Garfield has just nearly bottled it. That was nearly as bad as my Australia bottle. Nearly.
No, he's not in a wall. So Caribbean Crush onto the lead lap of the race. It's been a commanding performance from him, pulling off that one-stop strategy. Breaking Clays battled him for the first two-thirds of the race, but unfortunately was just unable to pull away on those soft compound tires and get the most out of them, and he just came out of the pits too far back. Big gaps between all of the championship runners, and we've got Garfield now. He's fallen back a bit, but I mean, there is one other thing to think about here. I do believe that Danny Railton has a 3-second penalty. So is Garfield going to be able to get within 3 seconds of Danny Railton? That's the question.
I don't think that's possible, as he's already 4 seconds behind. But I'm just riding on board the Caribbean Crush as he comes to cross the line, and I'm looking at these medium tyres thinking they look pretty warm. Could this just be luck that he's not at the puncture?
Might be. We can. Well, we won't ask him on the podium as he's a championship driver, but I'm sure that we could probably send him a message later on to see how his tyres were. That's something I want to know for the race next week. As Breaking Clays takes second, Roadrunner will be third, Schmidt will be fourth, and Barvmet will be fifth. However, they're all World Championship drivers, so we're not interested in them. Our real podium today currently stands as Danny Railton, Garfield, and Drew, with Farthba bringing up P4. As RDB is, well, he left the session as we watched Danny Railton cross the line to win the Bahrain Grand Prix. Garfield takes second place here, and unfortunately was just unable to hold on to that position. Critical error from Garfield there cost him the win, and yeah, that's got to be disappointing. We'll speak to him on the podium about that later on. Unfortunately, I'm unable to move between the drivers. Drew comes home to pick up. Yeah, he picks up a good podium here, and I'm sure that he'll be very, very happy with that. He showed some solid pace today. I think a couple little incidents, but yeah, he'll be happy with how he's come back here, and we'll just wait for Farth, but now to cross the line P4. I'm sure that he'll be ecstatic with an effective P4 here. He wasn't, I can say, I don't think he was hoping for too much coming into this race, but it's turned out to be a pretty good one for him. As we do have a note for Caribbean on his one stop, just for interesting information. He says that his tyre wear was at 69%, so he was right on that sort of 70% limit. That is risk of punctures. But he did pull that off, so well done to him. Interesting strategy from Caribbean.
I'd like you to read the bottom comment too, and just let everyone know the mind games that are going on here.
Yeah, Caribbean claiming he's trying to get advantages for next week. He's claiming for default setups. Don't believe that one. Not for one moment. So yeah, our final standings here for the World Championship reserves in Bahrain. We have the 5 championship drivers taking the top 5 positions. That's Caribbean, Breaking Clays, F1 Roadrunner, Schmidt, and Barvmet. However, we're not too interested in them because our World Championship reserves podium is Danny Railton, Garfield, and Drew. And the Kimi Räikkönen that you're seeing on your screen there, that was Farthba. Unfortunately, our non-finishers were RDB, who disconnected early on in the race, and Will Butler, who I think just retired his car later on when he realized that he lost the chance of being on the podium. But he'd had an interesting race up until then. Okay, so what's going to happen now with the stream is I'm going to go and invite the podium sitting drivers to the podium interviews. So the screen will go blue for just a minute while I do that, and then we will start the podium interviews once we get everyone in. Okay, that should be us back. So we'll just wait for those guys to join the party, and we can get the podium interviews underway. Pretty interesting race there. Kane, what were the main points that you took from that?
Besides Caribbean's a liar.
I'm not even going to comment on that one. There's too many psychological games going on here between the championship drivers. I think that's enough of that.
I think we're seeing that the one stop is pretty dominant tonight. So
yeah, definitely seemed to be.
I think we definitely got a lot to look at for next week.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Caribbean making that strategy work well with some good pace on those medium tires, but of course things a little further down were not quite so straightforward for our reserve podium sitters here. So I'm sure that we hear all about their races from their points of view very shortly. I'm just going to Kane. Do we have the podium sitters here?
Yes, we do.
We have all three.
Can you make sure you all set your party settings to allow to be shared, please? Yeah, I believe we're having that type of issues with Drew.
Okay, Drew, are you able to hear me? Right, okay. Hold on one moment. I'm just going to see if I can sort out these technical issues.
Can you hear me?
Yep, although you sound as if you're on the other side of a small mansion.
I'll turn the volume up.
Yeah, get that volume turned up a wee bit just so we can hear. So yeah, with Drew, it doesn't seem to be a mic issue. I believe it is a NAT type problem. That sounds a little bit better. Garfield, do you hear as well?
Yeah, I'm here, bro.
Sweet. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I say we just
hold on a second. Let me leave.
Oh, okay.
1 second. I'm reaching.
Okie doke. We'll just try and fix out these technical problems here, so that we can get Drew into the party and then it working again. We're having a slight NAT type problem, so hopefully we'll be able to get Drew back in and then hear what he has to say about his race. If we're unable to do that, then yeah, we've had this a couple of times. If we're unable to do that, then we'll get his post-race comments in written form, and we'll add those to the post on the Front Row Racing Facebook page. Not entirely sure if the audio was picked up there, as I was just inviting Drew again. So yeah, we'll give him another minute, and if not, then we'll just go straight for the interviews. All right, it seems as if we're having some recurring technical problems here, so I'm sure that we can get Drew's comments. I'll just ask him to write his comments. Okay, and we can get the podium interviews underway with our our second and first driver. So, Danny Rilton, good win today, a tense win at the end. I'm sure that ended up being much closer than you thought it would be. But I want to go all the way back to the start of the evening and qualifying. You qualified in P8, and it seems to me that you had stronger race pace than qualifying. Was that just becoming more comfortable with the track, or was the qualifying lap perhaps not all that you'd hoped for?
Yeah, the race was sort of practice for me. Every race that I go into with the WCR, I don't have no practice with the driving line off. I don't have much time to practice. So every time I come into a new race, it's basically practicing for me. So I've had a bit of a scrappy race today. I didn't hit many apexes. I overbraked a lot of the turns, but managed to get the win somehow. But I actually clipped my nose as well, which you'll have probably seen. I had to go in the pitch late and get some super softs on, which probably benefited me at the end, to be honest.
Yeah, we well, I mean that's the sort of Farthpa wing it style strategy that you're employing there, but yeah, I mean so coming into this without much practice, then without the line, I mean, I know that you do a fair amount of assist allowed racing as well. I want to ask you, what assist do you find most difficult to turn off? Was it the traction? Was it the ABS? Was it the gearing? Or is it the line that you find the trickiest thing to deal without?
It's just the line, that's it. I'm perfectly comfortable with the ABS and traction control off all the time. It's just that driving line. If I ain't had much practice on my braking points, obviously without the driving line, I sometimes miss them, which then contradicts your race and adds seconds and time onto your race, really.
Okay, and now we will move towards the end of the race. You had a moment you lost a part of your front wing and decided to make a late pit stop for the super soft tires. At that point, did you ever consider staying out and risking it? Was that in your mind, or was it always just the case that once you had that damage, that you went for the pit stop?
Yeah, I knew. I did try it, and I was just trying to take my corners, and it was just veering off to the side of the track. So I just thought it's just best to go in and get the new tyres and the new nose. Even though I was going to lose quite a considerable bit of time, I knew that I was going to try and get a bit of that back with the fresh tyres and the new nose. Plus, I had lighter fuel, so.
Excellent stuff. I'm going to hand over to Kane, and he can grill you a little bit more about your race and perhaps those final laps.
Well, Kelly's asked you everything that I wanted to ask you. First off, congratulations on the win.
Yeah, cheers.
If a WC drive was to come up next week, would you feel confident in taking it?
Yeah.
That is my question.
I'm confident in every race. It's just how your race plans out. I mean, I do need a little bit more practice. So the drivers obviously in the WC are going to be a lot faster, but you never know what's going to happen in that race. You could have some of the fastest drivers week in and week out and come into one collision on one turn and they're out the race. So you never know where you're going to come. I could do really well in this league. I could do really bad, but then I could go in a more competitive, faster league and do even better than the one I'm in by pure chance or luck. You never know.
Yeah, very truthful. Well, other than that, I do not have any questions. Kelly's asked them all for me because he is selfish. So,
I'm not going to ask them all. Yeah, Drew. Sorry, Danny showing some very strong optimism there. That's good to see. I will nab in with one final question for Danny at the end here as well. When you came out of the pits on those super soft tires and you saw the gap to Garfield was 10 seconds and you only had 6 laps to pull that down, you were going at the rate that you needed to, 2 seconds a lap, you were pulling it in, but I mean, when you saw Garfield make that mistake in the final laps, what was going through your mind there? I mean, were you relieved that you had the position, or were you looking forward to the battle?
It was a relief, to be honest. Like you say, I had the 10 seconds to kill, but once I started pumping them laps and I could see my delta going green, 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 I asked my team how fast I was catching him, and they said 2 seconds a lap, and I knew I had 5 or 6 laps to do it in, so I knew I had to have that 2 seconds on him every single lap. But luckily enough, like you say, that last lap or so, you made that little one mistake, and that's, like I say, going back onto what I just said, that's all you need, is that one mistake, and your race is over to a certain degree.
All right, well, yeah, that's very true, and congratulations to Danny Rielton on his win. Really, really impressive drive, and held his nerves through those final laps. As we'll go to Garfield, who is our second place sitter, and I'll allow Kane to have the first shot at the questions.
Congratulations on the podium. First off, you stuck to what you said, which I'm actually pretty happy for you to do. I mean, obviously I was looking forward to taking the absolute out of you for a while, but you got the job done, which is a good thing. Qualifying, how did you find it? Because obviously the first couple of laps were a lot slower, but you managed to find 4 tenths on the last lap that you done. What did you find that worked?
So like that qualifying session was my first ever attempt at ever driving with no assists. So I put a ton of downforce on it and a shit ton of fuel in there. I think it was about 7 laps or so of fuel in the car. So I was going out to do a long stint just to get used to it all. And it took a couple of laps. So I was setting a decent banker lap, come back in, emptied the fuel, and went back out. Yeah, I had a little mistake, but I was quite happy to put it in 4th, to be fair.
Yeah, you done well to get it up there. At the start, I'm not too sure what happened because there was cars everywhere, but you ended up down at the back. Can you enlighten us on what happened?
Yeah, I think I had a great start. I got off the line all right. Coming into turn 1, I think there was a bit of argy-bargy. I was in a sandwich between 2 cars. I wasn't too sure which. So I was easing off. And then I lost a bit of wing because I'm not used to racing with no racing line, to be fair. So my braking points following cars I wasn't quite used to it. So I was losing a bit of my wing on people's asses all the time.
Pardon Garfield's French it.
Oh yeah, my bad. Got the line. But yeah, I started just dropping back. I think I was last at one point. So I decided to pit and change my strategy, have a bit of clean air, and it worked. So I just started pulling it back.
So at the end of the race, obviously, you had Danny Railton behind you on the Super Softs. Was there any doubt in your mind that you couldn't hold on to the win?
Do you know what? I think if I didn't have it in my head, like that he was coming at 2 seconds a lap, because I had it on my radio. My engineer was telling me he was coming at 2 seconds a lap as well. So I was trying to work it out, and I would have been 2 seconds behind him. So, but like towards when he sort of getting up within 5-6 seconds, it sort of slowed down for like 2 laps, and then obviously I think if I kept it nice, just trying to hit my braking points nicely, I think I could have kept it, but. Nah, it's that little tight left I couldn't get used to under the brake, and I kept locking up there throughout the whole race. So, but yeah, good on you, Danny, man. That was well raced for you.
Cheers.
Congratulations.
But
yeah,
in the commentary box, Cayley was putting you down. Well, he not necessarily putting you down, but he didn't think you were going to do it. I thought, well, sorry, he thought you were going to defend the position. I thought that Danny was going to get it, in all fairness. But we were looking forward to seeing a good battle at the end of what was a pretty boring race, I would say.
Yeah, it was boring.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah, I passed everybody in the pits. Coming up as he was coming up there, and I see him just go past me. I had no fight back. My tyres were at like 71%, I think they were, on my fronts. They were pretty dire. So I was just trying to keep it back from whoever was in third. Was it Farfar? Farfar was in third behind?
Drew.
No, Drew, that was it. Yeah, Drew. He was like 5 seconds behind, 6 seconds behind. Because I made a fair few mistakes, so everybody caught up.
Well, congratulations on the 2nd place. I'm going to hand you over to Cayley now, who is no doubt going to ask you a lot more questions.
Oh, you've taken most of them, Kane. Garfield, I believe this is your first race running with no assists, right? I mean, how was it compared to running with the assists? Was the did you enjoy the challenge of it?
I definitely enjoyed it. It's definitely, you can definitely feel the car in your hand, in the controller, definitely a lot more. I would highly think I'm gonna do it again, definitely. Like, I think I might even keep some things off for the series next week. So
that's interesting to hear. I mean, what would you be thinking about? You know, the doing without. I mean, what assist do you think you might actually find a benefit from in the series? Turning off.
I think I need to keep on ABS. Unless I can sort out my braking, but I just keep seeming to locking up. But I was getting the braking points fine most of the time. My traction I was getting down perfect, unless I went off track and it was just re-entering. It was a bit hairy, but yeah, other than that, it felt really good. Can't see why I didn't do it sooner.
Fair enough. Well, at least you've had the opportunity now, and well, it's better late than never. Myself and Kane, we did bring up a few times that turns 9 and 10 here at Bahrain that might be the most difficult braking zone on the entire Formula One calendar. It's extremely hard to get right. Yeah, just a very, very awkward and difficult corner. So easy to lock up. So I don't think you were the only one who had trouble on the brakes there, particularly your first race, perhaps without ABS. That's a really, really tough corner to come up against. But I think you did really well. And yeah, I mean, perhaps just for the next time out, just practice on your trail braking, and that's the main thing that you've really got to learn in driving without ABS, and you might find that you go quicker without it. I do have one or two questions from. Well, it's a question and some other comments as well. I have a comment from Caribbean in the chat asking you, Garfield, say if a World Championship seat were to become available, would you consider taking it, perhaps over the World Series?
I wouldn't say I'd take it for this race, but yeah, I would like to say I would take a seat, but don't expect any points. I mean,
so perhaps something, maybe like a long-term goal there to move over to the no assist side.
Yeah, exactly. Take it as race as it comes, but those guys were mighty quick today. Those guys, the top 5. Never once saw them again after, I think, turn 2, 3. So
you'll get there soon enough. Don't worry about it. So I also have some post-race comments from Drew. Unfortunately, he was unable to join the podium interviews. So yeah, he was just talking about a little bit about his tires, saying that he really struggled in the first stint on the super softs. He found that very difficult, but then he went to the medium tires and the softer tires, which for the longer runs he thought was much more manageable. He also said that he had a couple spins in the first stint on those super soft tires. So yeah, and at the end of the day, he thought that if he perhaps hadn't had those, he might have been able to fight you for P7, Garfield. And he also wanted to say that he didn't, well, perhaps didn't expect to be on the podium, but he's very happy about it. So well done to Drew as well. Good race from him. And yeah, I mean, Kane, do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up the broadcast?
We should try and be more like Dave and Steve next time we do this, because Drew likes that better. I'm not sure we can copy that combo. Okay, so this was the World Championship Reserves Round 3 at Bahrain. I'm aware I've got the title wrong on the YouTube channel. I'll fix that afterwards. Just don't mention it. So this is Round 3 in Bahrain. Tomorrow we will have the World Series Reserves. So that's our assist allowed racing. So for those of you who are looking for a way into FRR and you're perhaps an assist user, that's the one that you're aiming for to come and try out and race against some of the World Series Reserve drivers and perhaps some of the World Series drivers as well. You might even see Garfield in there tomorrow. So yeah, next week we will have the World Championship on Wednesday, and then the World Series on the Thursday at the regular time of 7:30. All of those are at 7:30 p.m. UK time. And yeah, if you want to learn a little bit more about front row racing, make sure that you check us out on Facebook, just front row racing. And if you're interested in driving, then send a message to the page and they'll get you sorted out. Okay, so just want to say thank you very much to everyone for watching, and good night.